from Boston and beyond. Heat981fm.com and iHeartStation.
Tonight's episode of Conversations with Coach La is brought to you by Virtual Services by Shamina Austin. Do you need to delegate some tasks, or are you looking to declutter a space? Well, assign it to her. Introducing Virtual Services by Shamina Austin. She's currently accepting new clients and offers a variety of back office services depending on your needs. Contact Shamina at 857-273-1528, 857-273-1528, or email shaminaaustin@gmail.com for more information.
Conversations with Coach La. Coach La, your favorite neighborhood therapist, having real hard convos, contrasting pessimists. Generational trauma explored, broach delicate, getting to the root of the pain, healing impediments. Every week signs copay, free lessons. Bet on self, trust the process, no questions. Feel your feels, journey to be healed, no stressing. Conversations with Coach La's now in session.
And beyond. Heat981fm.com and iHeartStation.
Nancia, Smokehouse, it's the urban heat. Shout out to Coach La.
Coach LA, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the urban heat, just call it. Conversations with Coach La, 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 Coach La, 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 la. If you got something on your mind, you can call in, you can hit a line. She the realest, ooh, she the realest. You can tap in, loud, or get the business to empower you so that you can do every and anything that you want to. Kicking in with Coach LA, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the urban heat, just call in. Conversations with Coach La, 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 Coach La, 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 la.
What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Coach La La La. You know, I got my sister in the building. She actually gave me that intro to sing it like that. So I am excited, super, super excited to have her in the building. Well, you know, right? Tonight's Sunday, and you guys are tuned into the Urban Heat, 98.1 FM, and it's another episode of Conversations with Coach La right here in Hyde Park. I'm about to allow you guys to be a part of my virtual couch. It's been a beautiful Sunday, although it has been raining. I want to give a shout out to my girl, Kia. She turned 50. I went and celebrated with her yesterday. So she said she would be tuning in. So I want to say happy birthday again to you, Miss Kia. Some people know about her. Some people don't. But back in the day, she saved Coach's life. You wouldn't see the woman that you see today I had a friend like her. In the time of my life when I was homeless and needed someplace to stay. Sister girl said, I got you, sis. And she let me stay with her until I got my first apartment. So love you so much, Kia. There's so much going on in the city. There was a lot going on. I want to give a shout out to my family over there at the Mix. I'm glad to see that they're back opening the doors and people came and supported them. We got to stay together as a community. I know there's a lot going on, but Black business is important, and we got to love up on each other and really support each other so that we can, you know, feel protected and feel safe in our community. I know we got our differences, but there's always a healthier way to handle it. So I know y'all don't want me to get on my soapbox, but you know, it is a show about therapy and healing and community. But tonight I have my sister who's going to be joining me on the virtual couch. Y'all know we started off season 1 unpacking the past, looking back so that we can move forward. Now, season 2 is all about self-work, right? It's all about cultivating self-awareness, confidence, and resilience in face of life's challenges. And who better than my SongBird to come and talk to us about her journey? Because I just respect and admire her so much. So before I got a chance to break bread with her, I used to just watch her and be a fan and didn't know who she was. I just would see her sing. First time I heard her sing was at the Brown Sugar event, which happened, I think, 4 years ago. And I was like, she is, my father would call a bad mama jamma. She is one of Boston's front runners for a cover band that is infectiously named after her, Angelena in the Unit. With over 30 years of experience in business and music, she is definitely someone you want to know and experience. She's like, you know, big sister, auntie, diva, all wrapped up in one. She's graced so many notable stages with Patti, LaBelle, Josh Corban, Celine, Dion, and even Michael Bolton. She's had performances at the NAACP, the Arts Emerson Foundation. She's done numerous galas from the Museum of African American History, the Urban League. I mean, she is definitely our voice for our city. She calls herself the SongBird. I would say she's the songstress and the voice of Boston. Because if you know, like I know, if you ever had the opportunity, and if you haven't had the opportunity, just check her page because she's all over the city and beyond. And in 2024, it was a year of expansion for Angelena in the Unit, when they actually went and had their profile on Rob Bass and Christopher Williams, and they also headlined in New York City at the City Winery. I mean, when I tell you this group is busy, baby, they are busy. So I want to introduce and bring to the virtual couch my beautiful sister that's looking so fabulous, Miss Angelena SongBird Hightower. What up, girl? What's going on? Y'all bring that mic just a little quick closer. Turn your microphone up. What is going on, sister?
Not a doggone thing.
Oh, you can't say that. You always got a doggone thing going on. A whole bunch of things going on all the time.
Well, you know, it's funny you should say that because I was supposed to do nothing today and it didn't work out like that.
Oh, don't you love it when you say you're going to do nothing? But your nothing is always a little bit of something because you're always so busy.
Yeah.
So I told people a little bit about you.
Okay.
But from your perspective, what don't people know about Miss Angelena SongBird Hightower? What do you want them to know that's not in your bio and they would be surprised to know about you?
You'd be surprised to know that I don't like crowds.
Really?
I don't.
I would definitely not know that.
I don't.
You also told me you were somewhat shy.
I am.
Which I also didn't believe.
I'm what you call an ambivert. I turned this persona on because I have to, but I'm actually an ambivert. If I'm not cool with you, friends with you, you're in my circle, then you're likely to catch me just sitting in the corner, just watching and observing. And I'm a mom of 4, a grandma of 3. Yeah, that's about it.
And a doggy mom.
I'm a doggy mom. Yeah,
yes, soon to not be. We were talking about the fur baby gonna get adopted.
Yeah. I'm a fur baby. And you know, not to shout out to all my pet owners, my fur parents. There's something about our fur babies. You know, they heal. The fur babies heal.
Yeah, I've done a few letters for folks to have support animals. So I know people are serious about their pets. Although I'm not a pet owner, I do understand this emotional support that they provide.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When, because, I've been sick off and on for the last 6 months. So I've only had him a little while, but just in that little bit of time, he could tell when I'm not feeling good. He can tell when, I'm really under the weather, and the toll that the medications and things like that take on the body. It's almost as if he knows, although he's a baby, he's a puppy, he's brand new, but he still picks up on stuff already. So,
yeah, I got a chance to meet the fur baby.
Yeah.
Little cute little dog. He was just in here, just, having a little his way with Miss LaDonna.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much you know about last series in this. So we're in season 7 of Conversations with Coach La, and I've broken this up into series. So we wrapped up series 1, excuse me, let me correct myself, series 1, and we were unpacking the past and healing from within. Mm-hmm. But like I told you when I invited you, tonight we're going to be talking about self-work, cultivating self-awareness, confidence, and resilience. And I think you encapsulate all of those, right? You are very confident. You speak with confidence. I love that you're so self-aware, and I would say you're unapologetically yourself. But I know for a lot of people, that's a struggle to get there, to find their voice. I'm just curious, have you always been like that? Or
no, not at all.
So how did you become the Angelena that we see right now?
I got tired of people taking advantage of the other Angelena. Can y'all relate to that? If y'all can relate to that, put that in the chat. I see y'all on Instagram. They popping with us, and y'all see y'all right now on Facebook. If you can relate of people just, playing in your face and just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, throw it in the chat, because I know as a woman I can relate to that too. Yeah, I mean, I spent being married. I was married 15 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was married 15 years, and it was fine, but I spent a lot of time not very unhappy and accommodating and just going along with a lot of things. And, and that's what I mean. After a while, you get tired of people just, like you said, playing in your face and doing stuff, and then you allowing it, and then you're not saying anything.
Ooh.
And after a while, and it's funny because even as a child, my stepmom she told me, she said, you was never this vocal coming up. I said, really? She said, no, you actually, you were fine playing by yourself, which is, all my kids do that. She's like, you were fine playing by yourself. You were good without company. You had no problem. And she was like, and so to see you now is really interesting. She said, because it's almost as if now you had to make sure that I have to make sure that I'm here. Because for the longest, I was like, okay. And then, coming up, I in my teenage years, they would say I was loud or what have you, but ultimately I still found myself letting stuff slide when I shouldn't have, and getting real angry over stuff that was inconsequential. It's kind of what they call misplaced anger. It was in the wrong spot.
I think a lot of us can relate to that, where you either suppress your feelings and your emotions and they go somewhere, right? They come out someplace. I'm always curious to talk to individuals like you, because your public persona screams confidence, screams, don't you come at me no kind of sideways, because you don't want to find out. Right. But really getting to know the woman behind the mic, and what the journey has been for you beyond the lights. Because I would have never thought that you didn't like crowds, given how you can turn up a crowd, work a crowd. You own the stage.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You're not gonna come at me sideways. You know that. We've had these conversations.
Yes, we have.
But honestly, I'd rather just leave me alone. Don't poke the bear.
Right.
Please don't poke the bear, because I have a high tolerance for stuff. But when I'm not happy, when I'm unhappy, when I feel threatened, when I feel like you're trying to tell me what to do, when I feel like you're trying to bulldoze me, I'm like, hold up, nah, wait a minute, back up. Let me fix that for you.
As women, Black women, some of that confidence, or even that energy, or even everything you said, sometimes they can use the B word to describe us.
Yeah.
Say we're aggressive. We're too much. Even to a certain extent, the angry Black woman narrative is sometimes used when we use our voice and we are advocating for ourselves. How have you navigated that to be able to have the balance, though, to not come off that way, given that you do have to be in the public and you are an entrepreneur too?
So I have this very awesome person in my life who, by the way, it's funny, we just had this conversation before I left the house. And he reminds me constantly that I have a brand.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me constantly that although people may rub me wrong, talk to me crazy, I still have to maintain a certain decorum. And if I want to say for the last 7 years, within the last 7 years, I've been like, you know what? I'm gonna say what I want. I'm half 100. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and it's good sometimes. It is good sometimes, but then there are moments where it's got its place, where it's got its. It's almost as if the temperature has to be brought down just a little bit. Doesn't mean you can't say anything. Mm-hmm. Just simply means the temperature has to be brought down. And so he reminds me that the temperature has to be at a steady 98.6. Keep it at 98.6.
She didn't say 98.1. She said 98.6.
Keep it at 98.6, and don't ever let it get to 104, because 104 is deadly. Right. Don't let it get to 104. Keep it at 98.6. If you drop below 98.6, now you letting people walk all over you. We're not doing that. So we got to keep it right in the middle.
It is a delicate balance, and I think when you have a brand, there's a piece of how much turning the other cheek, how much do you let go, how much don't you address, that starts to impact your self-worth, right? Yes. Or in your ability to love yourself. I think it's constantly sort of this dance that we have to do of the brand and customer service and being able to, let the customer always be right. But sometimes, it feels like they're trying to take advantage or even, be disrespectful. And you kind of have to pick your battles and determine when to speak up and when not to.
Right. And especially when you've been dealing with it all this time, you feel like now I have to say something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You almost feel obligated to speak up. But again, that other piece to my life, he says, sometimes you still gotta say nothing. Just don't give it any legs. Just let it stay there. And
I love that. Don't give it any legs and let it stay. Don't feed the beast.
Don't feed the beast. No.
So, something I was thinking about, did we have these pivotal moments, and we're sort of touching on it now, of when we realize that we need to love ourselves differently, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have that, or can you recognize a moment where you actually said, you know what? I need to love myself differently to be able to do what you're saying now.
December 27th, 2017. I went to deliver a pie because I baked too.
That's another thing we didn't know about her, y'all. Yeah.
And the person that I delivered the pie to gave me a hug when I left and said, "Thank you so much. It's great seeing you. Take care." And when they hugged me, I broke down and cried. It was in that moment that I knew it was time to go home and make the dramatic announcement that I wanted a divorce.
Ooh, I didn't know you was going to go there.
Yeah.
What was it about that hug that did that for you?
That hug reminded me, it was almost a release. And it was it was nothing more than a friendly hug from someone, who just was like, well, it was great seeing you, talk to you later. All right, homie. But in the hug, it's kind of like when you get a massage,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and the masseuse hits the right spot.
Yep. And you're like, ooh.
It hurts so good.
Right. Like, okay.
There was nothing significant or special about this hug. Nothing at all. Nothing romantic, nothing, anything except simply, all right, take care. And immediately, and when they released their embrace of me, and the embrace lasted all of 10 seconds, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
10 Mississippi's tops. And they stepped back and they said, "You okay?" And they saw the tears come down my face and said, "Okay, have a seat. Let's talk." And yeah, I went home and I thought about it. I went to the grocery store, walked around the grocery store for about an hour. I'm back in the house. And the next morning I woke up and I said, I want a divorce. And you want to hear the funny thing?
Yes, I do.
At the time, my husband said I knew it was coming.
You know, most people know.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, often when we're going through these things, there's just certain energies, because we're nothing but energy, right? Where you start to know and sense and feel things are shifting, changing. Things that didn't bother you before start bothering you. You're short-tempered, you know, you're distracted, you're disinterested. It's just a lot of things that sort of, I think, let people know. There was something I was listening to, it was Jay Shetty. He was on a podcast, and he talked about being alone versus loneliness.
Big difference.
Right? And that society has made it such a death sentence and so just gloomy of the idea of being alone, that we would be in unhealthy situations with people, dysfunction, whatever, just so that we don't have to sit with our own thoughts and that feeling of loneliness, which is just fear, you know, fear. And he made this comment about being okay with your thoughts in every aspect of you, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, which brings me to the whole point of like self-love and self-acceptance, because I can only imagine what it took to get to that point to actually say, you know what, I'm going to end my marriage. Right? Because a lot of people, that's the last thing that they ever thought they would do is get divorced. People don't go into these things with the idea of ending them.
It's supposed to be forever. You never go with the end in mind. You're not supposed to.
Right.
It's supposed to automatically be a till death do us part. It's supposed to be your forever situation. And when that revelation came to me, and don't get me wrong, like you said, it ain't like it happened that day. You know, it definitely had been something that troubled me, and going back to what we talked about being taken advantage of and being not having my voice and not being able to, I felt like I couldn't scream, like I couldn't say anything. And I stayed in my marriage because God said I had to. He did say we had to. He said, you know, except for fornication, adultery, you ain't supposed to go nowhere.
You ain't supposed to leave.
However, he does call us to peace. And somewhere in my brain, the peace was not happening. And that's when I made that decision. So when I go back and I think about it, I needed it. I needed it. And it's, my sister said to me, I love this for you. She said, because all of a sudden I shed so much. The happiness came back to my face. The joy of getting up and going and doing things came back to me, because I no longer had that extra burden of what all that entailed in that particular relationship. And so I felt great. Don't get me wrong, it was a struggle at first.
Yeah, because I'm like, so you felt great right away? Because I mean, you were married for how long?
15 years.
15 years. And you had children. And,
2 children.
And, right. And him saying, I knew it was coming. What was your response to that?
And when were you going to tell me?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I would have been like, well, why didn't you say something?
Since you knew that, then why didn't you say something?
Why didn't you do something to make it not happen?
Make it not happen, exactly.
Right. Wow.
But it was cool. It was cool.
Now,
it was fine.
You say it was fine?
It was fine.
Yes. So how did you move through that in terms of like rebuilding and getting to this place of feeling like, okay, everything is good?
Oh, I hit the streets. I flew everywhere. I traveled. I cared about nothing but myself for about 2 years. Yeah. I had interesting about this whole idea of self-love and self-acceptance. A guy actually had written this, and he said, when you are ending a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, take at least 12 months to focus in on yourself, right? Do things you enjoy, love. One of the things he said was travel, right? If you're going to do date, but really take time to really process and self-reflect to build your confidence, and so that you can find out, who you are outside of that
previous relationship?
Oh yeah. Well, I threw that whole, I rewound the whole dating thing back to teenage years. I went out with several people. I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. And I didn't see anybody more than twice a month on purpose. We're not getting attached. We're not doing that. No attachments, please and thank you. So that's what I did my first year and a half. And then I got engaged. Interestingly enough,
in 2 years.
And yeah, I got engaged. That lasted that long because going back to what you said, what the guy said about not like giving yourself time.
Mm-hmm.
I messed around and thought is what I wanted. Yeah, no. People will be who they're gonna be, and in 6 months you'll see real fast that they're not.
Yeah, they say take your time. You know, what's that new song that's out? She said, "Take your time, don't rush." And he said, "I'm a dog, I'm a mutt."
Oh yeah.
I think that song's hilarious.
It is funny. I like that song.
It's catchy, but it is hilarious. The lyrics kill me. So how do you think self-acceptance impacted your personal and professional life?
Well, I first had to come to the understanding that I was okay. That ain't nothing wrong with me. That I am, I'm good. I'm okay. That I'm not flawed. That I did do everything that I was supposed to do. That I had to give myself grace, with who I was becoming. And I recognized that there was probably some selfish things in me. But I also realized that at some point people have to understand that you don't get to tell me how to be me.
You don't get to tell me how to be me. Isn't that interesting? So how do that's such a powerful statement. But what I'm also like saying to myself, well, where does feedback and where does that piece of like taking in other people's opinions? Because, you know, we talked about earlier, we all to a certain extent do want validation and acceptance and, you know, so.
But you have to liken it to a buffet.
Tell me more about that. What you mean?
Well, there's a lot of things on the buffet.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't eat, what's that, beet salad. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to leave that on there. I don't eat cheese like that. So I'm going to leave that on there. I don't eat, what's that other thing? Green peppers. I'm going to leave that on there. But now give me that egg. Go and give me that lettuce. Go and give me them tomatoes. Heck, give me some onions too. I'll take them carrots. I'll take a few croutons. I'll take a couple of olives. I'll take some cucumbers. But there are things that people are going to give you, advice that they're going to give you, things that may sound good at the time. But when you think about how it fits your life, how it molds your situation, some stuff you just got to leave on the buffet, honey, because it's just not for you.
Mm-hmm. I say that all the time. Look at feedback as a gift. And sometimes you need to re-gift it to someone else. And it just don't fit you. It's something you don't need.
Right.
It's not going to help you. It's not useful. Yeah. Right. But if it is useful, is it going to help you in any aspect to grow? Mm-hmm. Or if there's any truth to it?
Right.
Because sometimes people do tell you the truth about you.
And you don't want to hear it.
And you don't want to hear it. And sometimes you just got to sit with it. And everything that someone says, you don't have to have a rebuttal or say, you know what, I don't agree with that. Some stuff got to roll off and you got to be like, all right, thank you for letting me know. I didn't know you felt that way. I'll keep that in mind for future reference. And you just keep it moving.
Well, I told you I had that conversation with my other half on the way before I got here.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time he said it to me, it was not seasoning to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In that 20-minute conversation, it was not seasoning to me. It was actually, I was annoyed. But then I got it quite frankly, I was annoyed. And I'm like, how dare you tell me how to be me? But then I got in the car and turned on the music and got to driving. And I said, he might be right. And quite honestly, if he's listening, he already heard it. But I'm just
hey, you know?
But I mean, but honestly and truly, it's like, you know, it's sometimes you just don't want to hear it, which is why whenever you give someone advice or give someone constructive criticism or feedback, that you be careful how you deliver it, because one day you're gonna have to receive the same advice, and you may not like the way it tastes coming back. The same thing with you know, when you're giving someone advice or information that doesn't belong to them. I have to be able to take what you gave me and regift it properly.
Right. Yeah, and some of these, you know, having those difficult conversations, especially if you want to avoid conflict, can be really, really challenging.
Yeah.
Now, you kind of touched on this already, and we've already talked about you gracing all of these beautiful stages and being in the public eye for years, right? Like, who doesn't know Angelena Hightower, baby? You know? But balancing the need for external validation with the power of your own internal self-worth, I think is something that even those that are not in the public eye are trying to balance. You know, we're on social media. You'll have people say they don't really care about social media, but they're posting all the time.
They lie.
They tell you that, you know, they don't care if people like their stuff, or they don't care if people share their stuff. But the reality of it is social media is a marketing tool. So
sure is.
If you don't get the likes, you don't get the shares. For those of us that are entrepreneurs, that's not the only thing that we use.
But it's the biggest.
But it is something that's tangible that you can measure, right? That you can measure. So how do you balance that, right? Because I mean, you're popular. From what I can see, you say this often. Your folks don't play about you, right? They show up, they support, they share. Has that always been the case?
No.
Or did you have to build it?
No, no, and no, and no. No, and no, and no. Let me tell you, girl, I want to say, so there has been in the last 4 years, a shift in the tide where viewership and followership and all that has gone up in the last 4 years. Now, prior to that, my first 2 years in doing this again, I had to contend with, and you might have seen this on my page a couple of times, people popping trash. You don't know whether I'm saved, I'm not saved, I'm single, I'm in a relationship, I got kids, don't have kids, I'm gay, I'm straight. You don't know. Why? Because you're too busy trolling my page, trying to dig between the content, beneath the content, versus just enjoying the show. And the first couple of years, it was just simply a show. That's all it was. It's still like that now. I mean, occasionally I'd put something personal up, but at the end of the day, it's really a show. Like, come on. Like, everything is not about me. And so people would say things and would give me unsolicited advice. And yeah.
But don't we kind of, it's hard.
We set ourselves up for that when we post. We set ourselves up
right,
for it.
And we invite
We invite the commentary. So
right.
Which is fine. But then when you saying things and you haven't had the benefit of knowing me personally, and you're out in these streets and you're running your mouth, now we got a problem because you don't know nothing about me. So and I had somebody say about, I want to say it was 3 years ago, word on it, I hear she's a real B. And the person they said it to went, really? If she was a guy, would you say that? Well, I hear she's difficult. If she was a guy, would you say that? Because I get my money? Is that why?
Hey, Wade.
DJ
Wade.
I mean, if you, so to go back to your point, it took these last 4 years for things to get to the point where people are supporting and are there. And one of those things goes back to my other half, who was like, babe, your brand. Babe, your brand. Be careful what you put out there. And so now I'm still that same person. I'm still that person. I I just package it differently.
Right.
I'm not as quite as abrasive. I'm not. I'm a lot nicer. I've always supported other artists. I'm always gonna do that.
Right.
Despite whether or not you support me or not. I'm gonna do that because, as I've always said, there's enough bread out here for everybody to get a sandwich.
You know, and I think when you mentioned earlier, when you first get your voice back, right? If you normally were somebody who didn't say things, when you start doing it, it's kind of like a fish out of water, right?
That part.
You just ain't, listen, ain't nobody gonna come say nothing to you. You checking everyone and everything at the door. It's unfiltered, it's unregulated, right? And it takes a minute to sort of really get that balance of how do I say what I need to say and manage that it's actually impacting my nervous system and I'm actually pissed off, right? And it's not just that I'm checking you, but I'm triggered.
Correct. So you know the candy that you get, and it's the paper and it's just twisted on both ends.
Yeah, there's a lot of candy like that.
Okay, a lot of candy like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not packaged properly, what ends up happening? As soon as you pick it up,
It falls out.
Falls out, right?
Yep,
Pops
yep.
right out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But then there's the candy that's sealed on the ends.
mm-hmm.
Be it the long roll
Yes, yeah.
or the lifesaver minis.
Yes,
that are already.
yes.
And you got to work a little hard to get that out, right?
Yeah, you got to maybe put your teeth on it.
You got to put your teeth on it,
Pull
but
out.
it's goodness in there, right?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now. I'm peppermint rapper right now. I'm lifesaver rapper right now. You got to work a little hard to get that out of me. I'm going to give you this goodness, but it's going to take me a second to give it to you. And the reason why it's going to take me a second to give it to you, because I realize and I recognize you're not ready for what I got. Because if I just pop out and show them, as Kendrick Lamar would say,
discernment.
Yes.
Time and a place.
It's either going to pop out and miss your mouth
Mm-hmm.
and hit the floor, or you're going to get it too fast, too whole, too soon.
Yes. You know, thinking about that, right? You know, I didn't really ask you directly how therapy plays into or played into your transitions into these different spaces in terms of confidence and self-esteem, self-worth. And again, not every single person, people, have to go sit across from a therapist to get there, right? But in your case, like you said, you did.
I did.
What role did that play in this self-acceptance, self-discovery? Was it helpful?
It was extremely helpful. And it was that person that told me to give myself some grace. It was that therapist who said, let's unpack what's happening here. Let's look at what you've just gone through. Let's look at this death, if you will.
Can we say that? Let's pause right there.
Yeah.
The death, if we will.
Yeah.
Because often we only look at people leaving the planet in terms of grieving, but sometimes we have to grieve parts of ourselves and the departure of people that are still living.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. I remember I did some work with a client and we literally talked about having a funeral for the relationship.
Yeah.
Some people even said divorce parties, you know, these transitions, graduations, if you want.
Yeah. I had a repass in the Bahamas.
I bet you did.
I had a repass in the Bahamas. I had one in DR and one in the Bahamas. Yes, I did. Because I had to have it. But in my therapist at the time, because I was also dealing with something else, it took me a minute to sit down. As a matter of fact, it took me a whole 2.5 years to sit down.
So you were moving. Your
moving.
defense mechanism was to go. I got you.
Yeah, I just went.
Time to move.
Time
to go.
Gotta go. Everything was constant as far as work, as far as where I lived, as far as my friend circle. All those things were constant. However, when it came to that other piece, right, I was like, nope, gotta go. I was not, the grass was not growing underneath my feet. It was not. Every time you turn around, I was going somewhere. If it was not but a road trip to Connecticut or New York, or I jumped on a plane and went to Florida, by Alabama, I'll see you later. Because I had to get away from all those things that reminded me that I was no longer in this situation. And while it was very freeing, I just needed to do it. I needed to do it. And then when I finally sat down and came in for a landing and had a conversation with therapists and worked through some things, and the why I allowed myself to be engaged to someone who meant me no good, who gaslighted, who love bombed me, and then ultimately tried to embarrass me, and it didn't work. It really didn't work. It's a beautiful thing. When you're good to people, good comes back to you. So just don't stop being good to people, because it's not gonna end well for someone else when they try to do you wrong. But I worked through that with the therapist, and I understood that I didn't need to do that I could very well just go on about my business and begin to put my energy back into music, because I had stopped singing for a long time. I mean, I was only singing, I sang gospel, traveling with my church and stuff, but I put my energy into band singing. And when that happened, this guy interrupted my life. He interrupted my life.
Another interruption.
He interrupted my life. The thing is, he's stuck around, and he's been interrupting my life for the last 6.5 years. So there's that.
And every time she talks about him, the smile is just from ear to ear. But I think we haven't shared how your age, but you mentioned already you're a mother, a grandmother, so that in its essence lets you know we in we said we Thundercats.
I'm a Thundercat, baby.
Thundercat.
I'm a Thundercat mode. Yes, I love my age. I listen. I love my age. I'm a whole 54.
Yes. So just thinking about that and knowing, that in itself gives a lot of experience of transitioning as a woman. And it makes me think about, that being a big transition, but are there other ones that you feel like were your biggest self-work moments, or the biggest challenge you had for self-work? And when I think about self-work, those are those moments that you do have to sit down, you do have to reflect and do that hard work with a therapist to get to the other side, which sitting down and self-reflecting is probably one of the hardest challenges for most people, because we want to just keep moving, and that's how most of us deal with a lot of stuff, is we just keep moving.
Yeah, but it's not a long-term solution. It's a Band-Aid. It is a Band-Aid. And so it's funny because this happened 2 years prior to COVID. And then when COVID finally hit, it was even more of an opportunity for me to sit down and pray and meditate. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I have been doing it all along, but I got more focus during COVID on that, and really in tune to myself, because now the world is shut down, right? And I don't have any choice but to sit down and self-reflect and not be around people, and just be like, you know what, I'll be okay. And
COVID was tough.
It was very tough.
I mean, and for, a lot of artists and musicians, I found that was probably one of the toughest times for the people that I knew that were used to performing, being around people. It was tough.
It was horrible.
And, I actually put it on the screen, but there was even a study done that musicians and artists experience 25% higher rates of imposter syndrome due to the need of audience, applause, and visibility. So you figure COVID comes along and snatches that, right? Like, if you needed that,
you really don't have it.
To feel like you had something, people were lost and really just totally beyond themselves.
Well, here's the other interesting thing. People who watched us, because we did some virtual shows, and I didn't realize my impact on an audience until someone said, it's not the same watching you on the screen as it is seeing you live. I didn't realize how impactful my performance was, how much energy I gave to people until someone said that to me, because there are several folks who have, and matter of fact, I heard Santana on from the other night with her and Mark Harris the other night. She said, I have yet to see her show. I've seen video, but I gotta see her show. And that's really what it was for me. That imposter syndrome. I didn't have that. I was good with it. I'm gonna say I can stand on that. I didn't have that problem.
Right.
But my audience needed to see me.
Right.
You know, they needed to see me. And I needed to see artists. Like, I needed that. That was therapy for me.
So is that to say that that you haven't had moments where you didn't feel good enough, or you didn't feel like you were living up to your expectations or even others?
Oh, no.
That's a beautiful thing to be able to say.
Yeah, no.
Because a lot of people, no matter what the receipts are and the accolades, they still feel like they're not that girl or that guy.
Oh, no. I didn't realize how impactful I was, but I've always been that girl.
That's good.
I can say for a fact I've always been that girl, thank God. And it's because I know the work ethic that I put in. I know from prior to being in front of my band and other bands, prior to gracing the stages and being on television, when I was just the choir director from Dorchester, and I taught my kids that this is what you will bring this, you will be this. You and I talked about this off air a few minutes ago. If people are paying to come see you, you better bring it from inside to outside, rooter to the tutor, from your makeup to your clothes to how you sound, to how you present that. I think Bill Cosby said it best. He said, what's your favorite meal? The porterhouse steak with the potatoes, with the onions, with the mushrooms, but you present it on a garbage can lid. You have to I have always been that person to make sure I never present myself on a garbage can lid. I'm never doing that. I've always been that girl. And that's not cocky. That's just pure confidence in knowing that God has gifted me with the ability to do this thing. And
that's beautiful. But I know a lot of people struggle with that. So are there any lessons that you can share that can really help people with setting that type of bar with personal standards versus just chasing the applause? Because I think what that tells me is that that's just inherently in you, right? You want to show your best self.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not just for other people. It's something that really you want for yourself.
And you should want that. You should want to always, always, always put your best foot forward. And you have to think about it. If you were going to purchase a product, don't you want the best thing they got?
I would hope so. I would hope that people would do that. But I have found folks sometimes will sacrifice value for price.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Anybody that knows me knows what's my thing, La? Purses, pumps, and perfume.
Listen, her shoe game.
I don't go cheap on none of those things.
Her shoe game.
I don't go cheap on any of those things. I will not. This little purse right here, one of my favorite designers. I don't play around with this thing. I don't play around when it comes to spending that kind of money when I want quality. The same thing comes for when I'm seeing an artist. If I done spent all this money to come see you on stage, the last thing I want is to see you dial in a performance. You mean to tell me you are so self-absorbed that you had to just give me Ritz crackers when I asked you for bread?
Well, it's important. I think this goes back to how people value themselves. One of the statistics I found was that 42% of people say that their self-worth is tied to external approval. So some people seek that so much that when they don't get it, their confidence goes down. And we talked about this off air.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like sometimes I think the lack of preparation comes from the lack of confidence. You have to feel like you are that girl.
Mhm.
You have to feel like you have something valuable that people want to see. So that's why imposter syndrome is like really psychologically something that you got to work really hard to debunk by looking at your success rate, looking at your receipts of what you've done well, so that you can block that out, because that can make you actually show up not your best self because you're so anxious that you're unprepared because you're so frazzled. So
well, you know, to just back up a little bit, I'm gonna tell you, there was a time, one period in time. I'm not gonna say one incident, but one period in time where, very briefly, I definitely, I don't know if it's I want to say, I'm hard on myself. You know that.
Yes.
And so I would swear up and down that I'm like, that was no good. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. So, oh my gosh, you're great. You're great. I'm like, no, it was terrible. So I'm always harder on myself than other people are. And one thing I do not like, don't lie to me. Please don't lie to me and tell me I did a good job when you know I didn't. Don't do that. And I get it. You want to spare my feelings. You want to be polite. But if you have a relationship with me, or because now when you constantly tell somebody who didn't do a good job that they did a good job and they really didn't do a good job, they're going to rest on those laurels.
Or they never challenge
themselves.
Right.
And so I what do we say that tomorrow? Not telling somebody when they look good all the time. You know you sound good. Well, you already know what you did. What happens if everybody stopped saying that? Now we go back to that self-worth, that self-esteem going way, way down. But if you're constantly telling me, but you're not truthful.
Right. And I think there has to be a balance, right?
There has to be.
Where they talk about the sandwich method of giving somebody
a compliment,
one thing that they did well,
and
one thing that they did
wrong,
you know, or improve upon. Not even that they did wrong, but one thing to improve upon. And then you end it with something else that they did well.
Yeah.
Because I think there's always space for us to do well. But sometimes when you're a perfectionist and people know you're hard on yourself, they don't do that because you're already doing it.
That's true.
You know, so they're like, you know, you did great. And you're like, nope, I needed to do this better. Or I missed this note. Or, you know, that step was off. They're trying to focus you on the overall things.
Because they know that you're doing, that you know, you're beating up yourself. But, but at the same time, when someone, like you said, again, balance. Because if someone was to say to me, girl, you know, I heard you missed that note. I'm like, you know what? I know, right? And what am I going to do? I'm going to go back because I had one of my drum all the time. He's like, nobody noticed that. I'm like, want to bet? You want to bet?
Well, see, you're Aquarius like my sister, and y'all listen, they pay attention to detail, baby.
Yes, we do.
Every little detail, they see it.
And so it's real important if somebody tells me, first of all, I know you lying. If you heard what I heard. And so here's the beautiful part. People that are in my corner, in my circle, in my space. As a matter of fact, you've said it to me before. I missed a note on something. And you go, yeah, but by the time you got to that other thing, they weren't paying attention anymore. I'm like, yeah, except for one thing. It was videotaped, which means it lives in infamy now. So people always got an opportunity to go back and find it.
And people, we know that people are critical. I mean, you think about our favorite artists. I love me some Mary J. Blige. And for everybody who loved her, there was 2 or 3 people that was finding something wrong. Oh, she was tired. She was, oh, you see that? She stepped wrong. Oh, look at this. Look at that. So there's always going to be that. So, you know, right? I can't believe, you know, the show goes by so fast.
I know.
We are like almost to the end.
I saw that. I looked down. I was like, whoa.
We almost to the end. And you know, when you have a conversation that's like it flows so easy, right? And you hitting stuff I didn't even have to ask some of the questions, right? But we talk about bet on self moments. And I want to make sure we spend some time on this because I've been watching you continuously bet on yourself. But I always ask every guest, when is that moment of you taking something in your life and you take it by the horns and you say, if not now, then when? And if not me, then who? And no matter what other people may think, feel, or have said, I am the person who writes my story and can plot twist this narrative whenever I see fit. Tell us about a current bet on self moment, something that happened or something that's happening right now. I know of one.
I know you know of one.
And I want to make sure we talk about that.
I'm going to say it is actually every single time I step on that stage, it's a bet on self moment. Because it's another opportunity for someone else to see me. And I never know when that time is going to be that time. That being said, I was trolling my Instagram one day and came across this entry for Adopting Courage Foundation, which is a fundraiser / contest put on by Timbaland, Grammy Award winning producer. And he's got this contest right now. And the winners, he's picking 5 that will collaborate on an album, but then 1 will get the grand prize of $30,000 to do their thing. And your girl currently has been number one in my group. Finalist. In group number 1. I've been in my group number one since the start.
Currently.
Yes.
So we need y'all to vote, right? So this is a huge bet on self moment.
A huge bet on self moment.
Like this is huge for your career, for your band, for Boston.
It is huge.
Just everything you've been doing, but just the visibility because you made a song entry.
I did.
So you guys, you got to go to Angelena's page. I did put the link in the comments, which we're gonna throw it back in there again.
Yes,
because you can vote, you can donate. But we want to keep her in first place because only 2 people can move forward in this round, which there's only 3 days left of this round. So we need to keep her in first place.
Yes, because if I'm not in first place, then I'm not moving on.
Yes, and we don't want that. No. We do not want that. We want to make sure that she gets all the way to the end so she can be able to, get an opportunity to be seen even more. Because as you go up in rounds, more and more visibility comes, more and more people are looking.
Right.
And it's just a great opportunity. And these contests in itself are huge bet on self moments.
Yes.
Because you got to put yourself out there. I will say when I definitely did mine, just the stress, the marketing. You got to market yourself or it ain't going to happen.
You do.
It ain't going to happen.
Yeah. One of those other bet on self moments was the time I auditioned for The Voice. And another time was when I auditioned for Sunday's Best. For The Voice, I got all the way to just before the live auditions. I got just before that. Like I got sifted just before that. The Sunday's Best, I got as far as second round in before the celebrity judges. Yeah, so I got both of those moments. I got real close to getting to that other door, and so I took that moment to make sure that I bet on self, that I saw it through. I had a producer manager years ago who, and this is probably why I have the work ethic that I have. He said to me when I was in my early 20s, he said, I can find 4 singers in New York City on any street corner that sound way better than you. What you might want to do is make sure that you are always on point. I don't ever want to see you at a studio in a pair of jeans. I don't want to see you without your makeup done. I don't want to see you. I want you to be on point all the time. And so as a result, I'm 54 now. Mind you, I was 20, my daughter's, I was 22 at the time. I was 22. And he used to say stuff like, you're all right, but you can be better. Mm-hmm. You know, you need to make sure you do this, that, and the third. I can tell you're not rehearsing. Like, it was my turning point. That conversation was everything to me.
You know, these things are so important to all the listeners. You guys have been tuned into Conversations with Coach La right here on the Urban Heat 98.1 FM. We've been talking to Angelena SongBird Hightower. And I want you to know, practicing self-acceptance and self-care is reported to help you increase your emotional stability by 30%. So it's really important to do that that what we call mirror work, which was actually introduced by Louise Hay. And all that simply means is getting in the mirror and talking to yourself in a positive way. We talked about, today, being able to be proud of yourself, to love yourself, to have that confidence that you are that girl or that guy. And so I want you guys to realize that those are some of the bravest conversations you can have, because y'all know we about to do the Coach's Corner, because can y'all believe it? The show is like literally wrapping up. So mirror talk is one of the bravest conversations you'll ever have, because it's a conversation when no one can lie to you but you. Healing begins when you not only see your reflection, but you choose to honor it, flaws and all. Keep betting on yourself, even when the reflection feels unfamiliar. You are worth every ounce of work that you could ever put into yourself. So I want you to keep loving yourself fully. In the words of Miss Angelena Hightower, you are that girl. You are that guy. Yes. And any closing words from you over there, Miss Angelena?
No, just
yes. She said yes. You said no, but it's a yes.
No, I mean, honestly, just get up every day. Just get up every day.
If you get that
part done, get that breath, just get up every day.
Get up and put your best foot forward.
God got it from there.
I really think that's true. I think people have to realize if you get that
ability
to get up, don't play around with it. Get up.
Just get up. God will take it from
Listen, thank you guys for tuning into another episode of Conversation with Coach La. See y'all next week on the virtual couch.
Heat.a1fm.com and iHeart Station.
If you got something on your mind, you can call him, you can hit a line. She the realest, ooh, she the realest. You can tap in, loud, always get a business to empower you, so that you can do every and anything that you want to. Kicking in with Coach LA, it's time to listen to conversations that's gonna keep you winning. Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on the Urban Just